Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host Eliam, and we are here with Stephen from No Names. So, welcome, Stephen.
Hey, thanks very much for having me along. Well, having us along. I'm joined by Molly the dog as well.
So, Stephen, could you introduce yourself and what you do within No Names?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I'm Stephen. I'm in band No Names, based here in Goulburn in Australia, which is about an hour north of Canberra, about 2.5 hours south of Sydney. And yeah, so I play guitar and sing and program. We're a two-piece, so we kind of split between both of us, the programming and the singing and all the production. So yeah, a bit of everything really, just not tambourine or anything like that.
Cool. So, let's dive into some questions. As a kid, what were you listening to?
Yeah, so I guess my family wasn't really a sort of musical family. I mean, it was just the radio or terrible American pop country music that my mum was listening to and singing around the house. So, I mean, the earliest memories of music that really grabbed me, there was a record that I think KTEL put out by Chipmunk Punk, which absolutely blew my mind as a kid. Um, so I really loved that. I was surprised as hell when I would hear the originals of the songs later on, sort of Tom Petty or things like that, because you realize that these songs weren't actually written and recorded by the Chipmunks, but they were doing other people's songs. So that was one that I really liked, and I guess coincidentally, there's also someone's put out Chipmunks on, is it Chipmunks on 13, where it's slowed down and it sounds basically like Sun, and that's a pretty enjoyable listen to. But yeah, it was that Susie Quattro. I really liked her stuff when I was really young, and then I guess once I was a bit older and started to get into metal. I mean, it was obviously Metallica, Anthrax, really, and I still love Anthrax. They're one of my favorites to this day. Um, Started to get into bands like Helmet were coming out in the sort of early '90s, and that was it. That solidified everything. So yeah, that sort of drop D stuff. Yeah, I was sucked in for life from there.
Cool. Cool. So, who actually got you into music? Was it a family member or a sibling, or was it a friend, or was it purely by accident?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess it was not a huge thing in my family. I mean, everyone listened to it, but not sort of would be rare to see my parents go out and actually buy a tape or a record or anything like that. We had some laying around the house, so it was more by the time I got into high school and I started meeting people there, and there was one guy, Adam, whose brother was a big metal fan, and so I'd end up with sort of seventh or eighth generation cassette copies of things like Metallica's and Justice for All, which I listened to for a good couple of years before I got a CD and heard it properly in its pristine sound. So yeah, I was really I guess this guy at high school, and then just sort of delving into it from there. Just exploring more and more metal from there, and then I guess later on when I met some guys that were a couple of years older at the same high school, and got turned on to things like Butthole Surfers and all their early stuff. And yeah, so I guess it was sort of more the people I encountered sort of through school, introduced to a lot more eclectic range of music than the you know whatever was going on in my house. So I'll be forever grateful for those guys.
Cool. So, who actually inspired you to become a musician? Was it somebody from Anthrax or Metallica?
Yeah, so actually, there was a really generous, of all things, a maths teacher at my high school who also had a lot of musical gear at cool to sort of get everyone to encourage to play. So he was, I guess, one of the sort of, I guess, facilitators. Otherwise I wouldn't have had a guitar around to pick up. But yeah, there were, I mean, guys like Scott Ian from Anthrax. I mean, obviously he's just an incredible rhythm guitar player. And there were more, sort of Australian bands as well. There was a band that were active in the 90s called Def FX, and they were sort of I guess, a alternative sort of electro. I guess closest thing you might sort of know is, like, I guess, Pop Will Eat Itself, but with a woman fronting them. And that again blew my mind because I hadn't heard anything like it. And so yeah, I wanted to pick up the bass and sort of emulate their bass player. Yeah, I guess when I was a teenager, all I really wanted to do was get into a band from there and be able to play on the same bill as this band, which I ended up doing by the time I was about 17 or 18. So then I had to look and go, well, shit, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Because that was what I thought all I wanted to do at that stage. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. So, what were you like, if any? Were you in any other bands prior to No Names?
Yeah. So I've been playing for, gosh, I think about 30 years ago. I first started. First rehearsal I had with my first band was on my 16th birthday. We had to climb in through the window to get into this hall that we had booked to go and rehearse in. So yeah, so I remember that very clearly. And yeah, so and I was quite lucky in that band, in that we were in a smallish sort of region where we pricked the ears of the local guys that were booking the show. So anytime any of the sort of bigger Australian bands came through town, we started to get quite quickly put on the bills. So my first band, like, whilst we never really saw any money out of it, by the time I was 18, 19, we were getting to hop in a van and go around the country and playing with all the sort of, like, the big bands. So, we never kind of cracked it. We sort of got that close, but never really cracked it. But it was enough that I was, again, sold. And so I've been playing on and off in bands ever since then. Early 2000s, played in a sort of electro kind of band called Dog Boy Lover. And we, again, played some fun shows then. And then, yeah, had quite a few years off from there. And it was just watching the Nail Bomb live DVD too many times after too many whiskeys of a weekend, where I sort of had the itch, and I thought, well, that's it. I've got to do this again. So I tapped my friend Michael, who is the other guy in my band, and who I've known, again, he was doing sound for us sort of 25, 30 years ago as well. So he's played in lots of cool bands that were also my friends at the time, and we were into all the same kinds of things. We both sort of worship at the altar of Godflesh and that kind of thing. So yeah. So drunkenly messaged him and said, dude, we've got to get some caveman riffs together over a drum machine and do this. So yeah, so I guess bringing together, all the sort of experience of all the years of all the music we've been listening to and the bands we've been in, and again, like that Drop D Helmet sort of sound, and yeah, just pull all that together for what we're doing now.
Yeah, cool. Sort of like what, like, up to the sort of like present day type of thing now. What has the band been up to?
Yeah, so we've just been we were sort of stuck in a pattern of just recording demos, and we didn't really know what we wanted to do with this, other than we just wanted to make some music. And so not too long, I guess, after we put out one of our first demos, we had Chris Bollinger from Machine Man send us an email, which as is my hopelessness, it's still an email address that we set up for our band and then rarely remembered to actually look at. So I think about 2 months after Chris emailed and said, would you be keen to do some stuff on my label, I finally saw this email and thought, oh God, I've probably blown it by taking so long. But he's a cool guy, so he suggested putting out our music on his label and getting it up on Spotify. And getting it sort of out there, which has been great. Introduced us to some great bands like Decent News, who you had on your program recently. We did they were looking for some remixes for one of their albums, and we just got so into it we ended up remixing 4 tracks and putting out a EP, just the two of us, with that. And yeah, so I mean we've been quietly working away on this stuff for the last few years. I've been working with a band from Melbourne called Knife, who were really good. They were sort of recording some stuff. They reached out to me because they liked our stuff, and I thought it was really good, but it sort of needed a bit more, just a bit more aggro. So I redid the drums and remixed that for them, and they've got a really cool EP out now called Wound as well, and they're about to put that out on CD with some remixes, which I just did I got really inspired by the latest Pale Sketcher release. So accidentally, everything's all break beats. It sounds like, you know, jungle from the late 90s. So I'm going to be mastering that for them, and we'll put that out. We're trying to get sort of our band a bit more active again. COVID sort of, like everyone, sort of took the wind out of our sails. I think our last show was about a month before COVID, sort of the first wave hit, and we just kind of we live hours apart. So Michael lives about 3.5 hours away north of here, so it's not like we can get together very often and work on things, and that just kind of took the wind out of the sails. But we actually played our first show in about 2.5 years on Wednesday night this week. So we've been working pretty busily lately, putting together programmed visuals sort of to be projected over the band for the whole set. So the entire set we've been making visuals for, and one of them was so good that I encouraged Michael to put it together as a video clip, which we just put up on our YouTube channel yesterday. So, I'm pretty impressed with how that one came together. So yeah, trying to sort of, you know, get things a little bit more active again, and so it was good timing when you reached out and said you want to have a chat. Got things to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah. So, are you actually in the process of writing new material, or have you just over the last couple of years you've had like ideas and jotted them down and sort of like recording them, so to speak?
Yeah. So I mean, there's always ideas. There's always things that have been sort of in the demoing process. There's a couple of songs now which are, you know, sort of at that sort of 90% finish stage, which I think we'll finish off before the end of the year and put out another sort of 4-track EP. So that's the plan. You know, now we're back up and running and we've dusted off all the gear for the live set, and we know that works. We'll look at doing some more shows. And again, yeah, we've got this this band Knife, who I've got a remix of their track coming out soon as well. So yeah, I think now that hopefully COVID lockdowns are a bit of a thing of the past with any luck, and that, you know, we can sort of freely get together and work on things a bit more. Yeah, we'll finish off these songs and get these out before the end of the year.
Yeah, cool. Which this is probably going to lead into the next question. Really, are you planning on doing any like how, sort of like more gigs, more concerts?
Yeah, definitely. The problem that I find living where I am is that I live in a town of about 20,000 people, and it's regional Australia. So unless you're playing terrible country music, then it's probably not likely to play anywhere near here. So the show we played on Wednesday night was in Newcastle, obviously Newcastle, Australia. Although it might as well have been in the UK, because it's a 3.5-4 hour drive to go and play a show to, you know, a couple of dozen people. But yeah, I think now that we've sort of got everything ready again, and we played a few songs off our last EP, which we hadn't even played live before. yeah, I think that we'll also be looking to do a bit more of that. So yeah, then like we'll get a few more things happening again.
Yeah. So, if you had the opportunity and everything lined up, would you do like a full blown national tour of Australia, or try to get over to to the United States, or over to even over to Europe?
Yeah, oh,
To get,
absolutely. Do. I mean, um, as I say, this band Knife that doing a bit of work with, they're down in Melbourne. We've got mates in bands in sort of Adelaide as well. So, yeah, ideally, if we could get out and do a few shows there, that would be cool. Overseas, would love to. Actually, I've always got this sort of half thought out idea of going to Indonesia, which is somewhere no one really ever thinks about, but it's probably it's what the closest country to Australia. Although I don't think most Australians could actually find it on a map. But there's tens of millions of people there and a thriving metal scene. So I don't know if you're aware of the Indonesian black metal scene, but there are some of the best black metal bands on the planet, sort of right there. So I sort of have this half baked idea that, we could fly a couple of hours up to Indonesia and, sort of tour around there because there's an absolutely rabid metal scene going on there. But yeah, I mean, we'd be open to going and playing anywhere. I think, as I mentioned before, with my first band, I get to travel around and not really make any money, but enough to sort of, get from place to place. And I'd never seen most of the country before that. So I think, being able to combine shows with a bit of travel, yeah, that'd be great.
yeah, yeah. Getting back to like the Indonesia sort of like metal scene, I've been sort of like been hearing quite a few of the bands that's coming from Indonesia, and from what I've heard, is really really good, really good.
Oh, unbelievably good stuff. There's a guy I've been chatting to him in the hope of getting him to do some vocals on the track. But this guy put out his band is called Soulless, and I got this in a random. There was another band that I really liked called Northorn, who I discovered because I was actually going on a holiday to Indonesia. And I thought, well, I've got to find out what's going on, and all of a sudden discovered there's all these great bands. So I ended up afterwards I thought I was absolutely on my way to get scammed because I was chatting to this guy about getting some CDs and some tapes, and he's like, well, for the cost of one, you may as well buy 10. And like, oh, right, okay. And then he wants me to send him some money, sort of basically, like, I don't have PayPal. I just want you to send me some money to this account. I thought, oh my God, I'm absolutely going to get scammed. And then, sure enough, about 2 months later, this great big package of CDs arrives with, all these bands that I would never have discovered any other way. And just, some of the best black metal you've heard in your life. This one I was really taken by, this guy Soulless. I get in touch. He's, I think at the time about 19 years old, living, in sort of peninsula of one of the islands, and just making this stuff, which you would assume someone with like years of experience, and just it was so good. It was almost like Yaesu synths going on with this great big cinematic atmospheric black metal stuff. And this guy who's like 19 living in this town that's just probably a tropical paradise, writing this stuff, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. So yeah, it's no shortage of great stuff coming out from there, and that would be, I think, my number one sort of wish to go on tour would be to go and go and play there with some of these guys.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Speaking about doing gigs in other countries, one of my moderators has asked, like sort of like more of a like sort of like question type of thing. He says we would like to see you in South Africa.
Oh hell yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah, I again pretty oblivious to the sort of the South African metal scene, other than there was a documentary that Michael sent me, and I think it's on the Botswanan metal scene, and I actually have a friend who when I was doing my PhD a couple of years ago, he was from Botswana, so any excuse to get to that part of the world, catch up with him. And yeah, and again, I have no idea what's going on in South Africa. So what better excuse to find out than go and play there?
Yeah. From what Sebastian was saying, they've got like a thriving rock and metal scene down there, down in South Africa. So there's been doing like a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, like, but there's been one or two festivals down there. So yeah, there's a big thriving rock and metal community in South Africa.
Oh, unreal. All right, cool. Well, if you're in South Africa, give us a listen, and yeah, come and book us and we'll come.
Oh yeah, he also said, yeah, that's the main. I think that's the main one. He says that he says Metal for Africa feature Botswana bands, Botswana bands as well.
Yep.
So that's one of the big festivals down in South Africa, Metal for Africa.
Yeah,
So
right.
because from what you were saying, that the player they get bands from Cape Town and play at a festival there, and then gets bands like close to Botswana, I believe. Tell me if I'm wrong there, Bastian. And he says that basically they're sort of like a dual, a bit like Leeds and Reading over here in the UK, where they sort of like play like a weekend type of thing. They play like two venues, so they get bands from Botswana, bands from South Africa, and they get like other bands from different areas to come in and do like a lot of like meet like a weekend of it type of thing.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, so yeah, it's like a burgeoning community there down in South Africa now, where especially with the rock and metal scene. So yeah,
Hell
yeah.
yeah. All right.
Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so we're on well, we've probably shot ourselves in the foot by having the stupidest band name ever to be able to find. But we are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and our music is on Bandcamp. So I think it's No Names AU is the what it's under on Bandcamp. We're on Spotify as well. If you find us on there, you'll find that the most popular song is some doo-wop band, which also was called No Names from the past. So you can probably skip that song. But yeah, we've got sort of three demos and our EP on all on Spotify for streaming there as well. Bandcamp, there's a couple more things because we did a collection of remixes, a couple of remixes we did for things like Chris from Machine Man, so his band Varicella, and then a couple of people remixing us as well there. So yeah, hit us up, and we'll probably be a little bit more responsive than if you send to our email address, which we look at every 2 months. So yeah, if you catch us on Facebook, we're pretty good there.
Cool. So this is probably going to be my last question, unless somebody in the chat wants to ask a question. I'll ask Stephen. So this is my last question. Any advice for people who want to become a musician?
Yeah, well, being absolutely unsuccessful, I'm not sure my advice is worth much, but I think in terms of music, in terms of wanting to be engaged with it, just I find listening to as broad a range of music as possible. I mean, obviously, what we do in our band is very sort of fairly singular. We love that sort of that industrial metal, the Godflesh kind of vibe, Ministry, and we don't sort of really deviate too far from that. What we want to do, but then if you check what Michael and I are listening to, it's anything but just that. Whether it's I mean, we both enjoy like lots of 20th century avant-garde classical stuff, so Arvo Pärt, Steve Reich, all that kind of thing. We've seen Steve Reich uh, and Phil Glass and thing, in concert. And so, we stick out like sore thumbs because we're wearing our metal shirts at these sort of highbrow things. But, just being interested. I mean, like I said, discovering, all this Indonesian black metal, just absolutely, you'd have no idea unless you sort of went looking for it. I think my most listened to stuff that and again we both like is a lot of the sort of stuff coming out of Uganda, a lot of the sort of electronic dancey kind of stuff coming out of there. There's a couple of really cool labels that are putting out music there as well. And I think just being interested, because you pick up inspiration from whether it be rhythms or whether it be song structure or how you can combine things together in sort of interesting ways that if you were just listening to say Godflesh, you just wouldn't have that sort of range to bring into it. So yeah, I think tinkering is always good. Like if you don't need anyone else in this day and age. I mean, when I started recording, I had to borrow a Tascam 4-track tape and a drum machine, and I think now for the same sort of money, what you can do on your laptop is just unbelievable. So learn how to use that software, learn how to record and program, and just sort of do everything in house as much as possible. Because you're always ready to go, you're always ready to put down ideas, and and if they suck, then you just hit delete, and it's nothing lost. But I think having those tools at your disposal, just like super important. So yeah, I think those would be my big things, is just have those open ears, go looking for stuff, be interested, and learn how to do it yourself.
Sound advice. Sound advice. So, Stephen, I think that might be that'll be about just about finished now. So, guys, go check out No Names on the social medias like Facebook and Bandcamp and all the other good places where to find No Names. So, yeah, go check them out. They are absolutely brilliant. Go check them out. So, thank you, Stephen, for coming on and doing this little interview. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Really lovely to chat, and yeah, I'm gonna go and get that third coffee now, and yeah, enjoy my Sunday, but enjoy the rest of your Saturday night, and thanks for having us along to talk about our stuff.
Yeah, my pleasure, and again, thank you so much.